Let me check this one. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, let me turn this up. 1, 2, 3. Let me check this one. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, let me turn this up. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that should be better. 1, 2, 3. All right, the cutters are. You're gonna have to take 1, 2, 3. This one here. Just hold. There should be a button on there. Hold it till it goes blue. All right, the cutters are. You're gonna have to take. There you go. 1, 2, 3. This one here. Hold. There should be a button on there. Yeah. All right then. The sound sounding too well. All right then. At least we got that sorted. All right. Remember. Check out Commanding General Yohanna's radio show, which is Monday, 2 a.m. Also, check out the classes in the States. Just follow the pages. Just go on Facebook and follow all the pages, all the schools' pages, and then you will see when classes come up. So all those things you will see when classes come up. So just follow them, and you'll find tons of classes live. Your sport for choice. You can choose whichever ones you want to watch. American classes in UK time comes on midnight. Over here, we have classes Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. till 9. We also have an online class, Brotherhood, Tuesday. We have an online class Friday, 6:30 p.m. or 7 p.m. also. Then on Friday, we have the radio show on the ends. Saturday, the Sabbath service and camp. And we also doing Hebrew Academy. So it's a busy week, man. So yeah, we got a backlog of things to do. It's a busy week. Also, you can ask your questions. Any questions you got, ask them. Or you can ask them tomorrow in scripture breakdown class. It's up to you. The choice is yours. Give me a Deuteronomy 54. So this is the law class. We're going to go into why we're so destroyed. Because we didn't keep the laws. We went through what? Certain things in life. So we're going to read certain things in life that only us as a nation went through.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
That's black on black crime, man. Black on black crime is a curse. Black on black crime is a curse in the Bible, man. Black on black crime ain't how things is supposed to be. Black women hating other black women ain't how things is supposed to be.
That's right.
Us seeing each other and being uncertain, am I going to get robbed today? Am I going to get shot today? Ain't how things is supposed to be. Like, we living in fear of our life every single day, man, because of one another. Imagine this. I want to go to I want to go to a rave or somewhere, and in my mind I'm thinking, I can't really go because, it's in this postcode, there's going to be problems. That's a curse in the Bible, man. Read that again.
So that the man that is tender and
meaning
delicate,
what? A man was delicate towards his brother. You wouldn't think to harm your brother. You wouldn't think to harm your sister. Because why? We had compassion on one another. We knew how to deal with our issues. And we knew if we had any issues, this is how we're going to handle it.
Right.
But obviously, we've become what? Savages. Why? Because we broke God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Go ahead.
Among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children.
So now, towards the wife of his bosom, towards the remnant of his children. So now, men hate what? Black women now. Now, black men don't like black women, man. They hate them. Why? Because we evil towards them, and we evil towards our children also. Don't take care of them. Don't care whether they live or die. Don't care what the hell they're doing. All of these things is a curse in the Bible, man. Read on.
And toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
And towards the what?
Remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
And towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, meaning this man has sex with a woman, gets her pregnant, and tells her, yo, those kids ain't mine, and he's out, man. Tells her, I don't want them kids. You the one that wanted them. I didn't want them. I told you go on, what did he say? I told you go on the pill. I told you go on the implant. Get me? I told you go on the implant. I told you go on the pill. He don't want them kids. He's evil towards the remnant of the children, man, which he shall leave. Go ahead.
So that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat.
Go ahead. I think we covered this part the last time we. But read on this.
Because he have nothing left.
Actually, jump.
In the siege.
This is talking about the siege when what? The Romans surrounded Jerusalem, and the ones that didn't flee into the mountains. So the ones that fled into the mountains ended up going into West Africa. So that's where they fled to of Roman persecution. So they ran into West Africa, and then the ones that didn't flee, they stayed in the land of Israel. They stayed in the city, and then the Romans did what? Surrounded the city, surrounded them, and made sure they couldn't get food or couldn't come out or nothing. And if you did come out, they would kill you. If you did come out, they would kill you. So they blocked up the whole city and starved you in. So while they was outside, all the food that was coming in there, eating the food, playing a waiting game, knowing, okay then, either they're going to die inside their houses or they're going to come out and we're going to kill them. So it was win-win for them. So these is the ones who didn't flee into the mountain. Obviously the ones that did flee into the mountain, into West Africa, they stayed there for numerous years. So they stayed there for numerous years. And then over time, they had children who had children who had children who had children who then did what? Went on cargo slave ships. So some in Jerusalem in the siege. And then some fled into West Africa, had generations of children that did what? Followed African culture, African customs. And then over time, what? The Lord realized, well, these niggas ain't cleaning up their attitude. They're still doing the same thing they've been doing every captivity they've been in. So then, them same Africans that we thought we were safe amongst ended up what? Rounding us up for Europeans. Europeans said to them, we'll give you handkerchiefs, musket guns, and clothes if you sell us these people. So then, they rounded us up. There was a thing called the Royal African Federation, the RAF, the Royal African Federation. Like slavery wasn't just the thing where it was just some rounding you up and some random white men enslaving you. It was a whole business. So these was like legal people today, like the police force. These wasn't no little men. These things was companies. Why? Because to be a sailor, to sail a ship, it takes skill. You ain't just gonna jump on a ship and know how to sail. To navigate a ship takes skill. So what you would find on the ship, they all worked together. They had sailors, they had doctors, they had everything on them ships, man. Read on.
So that he will not.
Jump down to
58.
Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 58, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear.
So all the words of this law, and this is the law class. So what we supposed to do is what? Go into the law, man. Us as black people, we have no laws. We live a lawless life. And that lawless life is why we ended up in slavery. That lawless life is why we get punished.
Right.
Because we want to live lawless. Whereas the Lord said, I don't want black people to live lawless. He gave us laws, statutes, commandments for us to abide by. But us being us, we're hard-headed. We don't want to live by them. We want to do whatever's good to us. And this is why we're in the position that we're in. Go ahead.
That thou, Shalakia, words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the
Listen,
Lord thy God.
We're supposed to fear the Lord. Instead, what do? Fear the oppressor. That's what you do. We fear the oppressor and do everything he says, man.
Right.
This oppressor says celebrate Christmas, you do that. He says celebrate Easter, you do that. He says celebrate your birthday, you do that. Listen, man, if you feared the Lord half as much as you feared the oppressor, we'll have the kingdom of heaven already, man.
That's right.
We would be a righteous nation and have the kingdom of heaven already. Go ahead.
Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues.
Listen, man, are we plagued, man? We are a nation plagued with everything, man. Plagued with black on black crime, plagued with hating one another, plagued with all types of diseases, plagued with all types of mental health. We plagued with everything, man. Why? Because we didn't fear the Lord. We don't.
And of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance.
And we have sicknesses. Like, don't nobody die more than us, man. We die from all these sicknesses. You got what? Prince Philip and them live until they're 101, 102. Meanwhile, we live maximum what? About 60, 70. We'd be dead from disease by the time we're 65, man. Alzheimer's and dementia and all them things. Why? Because we have all these plagues because we disobey the Lord, man.
Right.
Whereas if we serve the Lord, we could live a long, prosperous life. But because we don't, we die in our teens, we die in our 20s, we die way before we're supposed to, we die from violence. Read on.
Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt.
All the what?
All the diseases of Egypt.
And listen, man, we seen our enemies in Egypt receive all them diseases, the boils, and everything, man. We seen them receive all them diseases, and we was like, damn, we don't want no part of those diseases. The Lord saying, okay, then you want to disobey me. I'm going to treat you how I treated them Egyptians, man.
Right.
What I done to them Egyptians, I'll do it to you, being as you don't want to obey me, man. The Lord said, all right, then you don't want to be no children to me. Okay, then I'll show you what I do to people who ate my children, man.
Right.
And what he done to the Egyptians, them plagues, he said he's going to bring them plagues upon us for disobedience.
Right.
Whereas if we don't want them plagues, all we have to do is be obedient, man. Read on.
Which thou was afraid of.
Which what?
Which thou was afraid of.
We was afraid of them plagues, man. Because we seen it darkness over there. We seen frogs. We seen the rivers turn to blood. We saw all those things. We was afraid of those things. And where we was in Egypt, we didn't have none of these plagues. Why? Because the Lord made a separation between us and the Egyptians, man.
Right.
He put us in Goshen. We was in Goshen. And the Egyptians was in, let's say, Cairo and all of them places, man. Where they had all their plagues and all them diseases. We didn't have those. And we was afraid of them. And the Lord sinned that we was afraid of them. So now the Lord saying, okay, then, you want to be disobedient to me? I'll bring up all these plagues upon you that you was afraid of. Read on.
And they shall cleave unto thee.
And what?
And they shall cleave unto thee.
And listen, man, just look up. Actually, I would have pulled it, but I'll get it before we leave the class. But there's certain plagues that we had. You see, at the time of this, like at the time of the Egyptians' plagues, you'll see that some of those things, black people's had them over the years. Now they just call them different names. Obviously, back then they would call them one thing, whereas today they'd call them something else. There's plenty of plagues, man. COVID-19 is a plague, man.
Right.
That's a plague. At first, people saying COVID-19 don't affect black people. That's what they were saying. Until one day, what happened? Your loved ones started dying from it, man.
Right.
You started losing loved ones to it. Which lets you know these plagues is upon us for what? Disobedience, you know.
Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book.
Also, every sickness and every plague, cancer, man, diabetes, gout, all of those things which is not written in this book. All the just look, every disease that you can think of which is not written in this book, the Lord will bring all of them upon us.
Right.
Why? For disobedience, mental health, all types of stuff we go through. The Lord will bring it all upon us for disobedience. So this is why we better be very obedient, man.
That's right.
You don't want to be sick. You don't want to die. You don't want to live a horrible life, a painful life. Then we best be obedient, man. Because the Lord's letting you know, look, ain't no free will. That free will stuff's a lie, man. Either you're gonna obey the Lord or you're gonna get plagued and punished. It's just how it goes, man. Read on.
Them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed, and ye shall be left few in number.
And what?
And ye shall be left few in number.
And ye shall be left few in number, man. Listen, man. It's mad, you know why? Because we, the minority, like, well, it is when you look at us as a people, we the minority, man. I'm sure they said we about what? I can't remember if it was 4 or 9% in this country. So we, the minority, because we left few in number. And you know why we few in number? Because of black on black crime, man. Because of us dying from drug overdoses. Because of us dying from all these plagues, which is not written in this book. This is why we're few in number, man. Imagine, just think, all your childhood friends, if they was alive right now, man. Just think if all your childhood friends didn't die young. Just think. There'd be loads of us. But we left few in number. Why? Because of our disobedience.
Right.
Because of our lack of obedience. This is why we left few in number. Because why? The Bible says what? We will be like the sand of the sea. Right now, we ain't like the sand of the sea, especially not in this country. Why? Because we're killing one another.
Right.
Robbing one another, harming one another, murdering, killing, slaughtering each other. And every time you kill a black man, you do what? Weaken your own nation, man. You make your nation lose numbers. Every time you kill a black man or a black woman that looks like yourself, you make your nation lose numbers. Read on.
Where as ye were as the stars of the heaven for multitude.
Whereas we was like the stars of heaven for multitude. Go ahead.
Because thou wouldest not obey the Lord, the voice of the Lord thy God. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you.
Meaning what? The Lord said what? You know what? I'll be happy to raise these people up and make them live good. All right, then they want to disobey me. Well, I use that same energy to destroy them, man.
Right.
The same way I was happy to make them live good and everything. I use that same energy to destroy them. And that same energy is being used, man. And you can see that what we on the wrong side of the Lord right now.
That's right.
When you step outside your house, you should see that we on the wrong side of the Lord.
That's right.
Like, just look at your life. Look at everyone's life around you. Only us as a nation is what have kids and ain't with the mothers not with the father. There's this much baby fathers and all of those things, man. Only us as a race do this, man. You wouldn't ever hear an Arab woman say, oh yeah, here's my baby father. They don't say that, man. That's become a black thing, this baby father. Oh yeah, he's just my baby father. Whereas they would more say, oh yeah, that's my husband. But with us, we are a race so destroyed and we can't get along. We hate each other. We disobedient to the laws of the Most High. That what? Even us as a people, we can't see eye to eye. So now, that black man that you made a baby with, he just becomes, oh yeah, he's just my baby father. Or he's my sperm donor. Yeah, or his, yeah. So that's how much we hate each other. That things like that, we can't even see eye to eye.
Right.
Read on.
And to bring you to naught.
And to what?
And to bring you to naught.
And to bring you to naught, man. Look at where you're living in the ghetto, man. We've been brought to naught. Look at where we're working. A dead-end job, man.
Right.
Look at what businesses we own, man. Nothing. Look at how much real estate we own. None. Look at how much black businesses there is. None. Listen, man. We are people who's in debt. As a nation, not as an individual, you might have stuff. But as a nation, we ain't got nothing. Read that part again.
And to bring you to naught.
And to what?
And to bring you to naught.
And we've become naught. We've become naught that nobody respects us no more, man. We've become naught that Chinese people look down on us. We've become naught that Afghanistan's look down on us. We've become naught that East Indians look down on us and Arabs look down on us. We've become naught that what we having to what go to their shops,
Right.
having to buy petrol from them. Can't even find a decent black businessman. The only black businesses you will see is what are barbers and a food shop. That's it. Imagine when I'm going house shopping, I should be able to what buy a house off a black man, but that don't happen, man. Why? Because we got no real estate, we've got no land, we've got no acres of land. Meanwhile, every other nation does.
Right.
Every other nation can say what? You know what? I've had enough of England. I'm going back home. Where do black people go? Where can we go? Don't say the Caribbean. You was brought to the Caribbean to be a slave. So where can you go? Whereas everybody else has their own land. But us, we'll say, oh, I'm going back home. Where's home? Jamaica. Nah, man, you was brought to Jamaica to pick cotton, man. You was brought to Jamaica to cut down sugarcane. That's what you was brought there for. That's not home, man. But you've been there so long that what? You think that's your home. Meanwhile, everybody else has their language. Everybody else can speak about you in their language. They've got a tongue that they speak and we don't understand them. And if you're not of that race, you don't understand them. But with us, we ain't got no tongue that we can speak, man.
Right.
We ain't got no language that we can speak. Africans speak all these different languages. Chinese speak Mandarin. Arabs speak Arabic. Emiratis, I believe they speak Arabic as well. Yeah, they speak Arabic as well. All of these like do what? Have their own languages. And then when it comes to us, what do we have? English. Speaking our oppressor's language. Don't say patois because what? That's broken English. That's the best you could get. He beat that language into you, and that's the best you could speak. And that's why you speak like that today, because you tried, and that was the best you could speak. I tried to make you speak the Queen's English, but obviously we didn't make it. So the best we could speak was patois. So that's why we speak that today. Why? Because it was beat into us, and it's just a broken form of English. Whereas every other race have a tongue and a language, man.
Right.
Listen, two Asian men can do what? Communicate about me, and I don't understand what they're saying. Now, how do I communicate with a black man about an Asian man, and if I don't want him to understand what we're saying? It's not possible. You know why? Because we don't have our own language. That's why we've been brought down to naught. Read that part again.
So the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught.
And this is how you know the Lord wasn't lying, man. This alone should let you know the Bible's the truth, man. He said he will bring us down to naught. Go ahead.
And ye shall be plucked from off the land,
Go ahead.
whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
And what?
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
So this is the all nations you read about in the New Testament. The all nations is us being scattered amongst all people.
Right.
This is what you're reading about when you go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, when he's talking about Jews out of every nation. Why? Because we were scattered in every nation. So every nation on earth, you'll find us there. Go ahead.
From one end of the earth, even unto the other.
From one end of the earth, even unto the other. We were scattered during slavery. What? They grounded us up and gathered us and took us to different parts, man.
Right.
The French had their colonies. The British had their colonies. The Dutch had their colonies. And then they took us all over the earth, man. They listen, they had colonies ranging from bloody from Europe all the way down to Australia and whatnot. The British had like what 13 colonies in America before the Americans broke free and so forth. Listen, man, they had colonies everywhere. They went to really Great Britain belonged to the Japhetic people. I believe they called them the Celts and the Druids. The Druids and the Celts really belonged to them, but obviously, I believe it was Julius or Augustus. One of them, or Julius Caesar. No, it wasn't him. Was one of them. Came to England, terrified the people, and over time took their land. And this is why, when you read about the Colosseum in Rome and in Greece that they made a place of exercise and whatnot. The gladiator arenas. They also had one in London. Why? Because the same people conquered London. There was a place in London called Roman London, but it's called Roman London, which was a lot smaller than how you see London today. So it was by the Thames. Why? Because it's good to have your land by water. Because if you got your land by water, all the ships can come and bring in the goods. The ships can come in, the ships can go out. So they would always put their land by the water. This is why they always had their lands by water. So if you look at most of their colonies, you will see the same pattern. There was always close to water because they know, all right, transport and export. So they had a business mind. Read on. And close to this water is what? Where they brought the slaves into the Caribbean. They brought you in by water. They brought the slave goods to Europe. They had not slave docks, but they had port docks where the slave goods would come to England, because obviously you would do all the work in the Caribbean. Then they would send for all of that and bring it back to England. So then they had docks in Liverpool, they had docks in Bristol. They also had to make new docks. That's how much slave ships was coming in. That's how much goods was coming in. That they had to make a new dock. Why? Because they was getting those much stuff, man. Listen, when we were slaves, and even though we're still slaves today, but when we was doing all this slave work, they never had no shortages, man. You see, like now they got shortages of people delivering petrol. If this was the 1800s, listen, you would be doing it, man. They didn't have shortages back then. You know why? Because they had enough slaves to make sure there wasn't shortages.
Right.
They had enough slaves to make sure there's enough cotton, so much that people didn't need to buy it in bulk.
Right.
They had enough slaves to cut down enough tobacco, so they had enough cigarettes. Therefore, people didn't have to buy it in bulk and panic buy. The reason England's panic buying, why? Because England is losing its slaves, man.
That's right.
England is losing its hold on people. This is why everyone's panic buying. Why? Because if the British had it their way, they would have enough drivers to deliver fuel. But what this country is going down the hill, man, that every so often they're losing out on workers. Everything's running low. Everybody's panic buying. Listen, man, England is slowly falling right in front of your eyes. England is slowly falling right in front of your eyes, man.
That's right.
When has England ever lacked anything? And now you're seeing it often that England is lacking certain things, man.
Right.
So much that everybody has to panic buy. Why? Because England is losing its touch. And this is our last captivity. So when we see these things, we're supposed to be like, well, damn, England can't even provide enough fuel. England can't even provide enough food and toilet paper. Listen, man, a better kingdom's coming, man.
That's right.
This kingdom has to fall in order for us to get ours, man. They have to go through certain things in order for us to get ours, man. Say, Slack, give me 1 second. So look here. It says troubled, man. Like, we ain't troubled. Listen, we know we need petrol, man. So obviously we're just gonna go about our day and get our petrol whenever. We ain't gonna panic buy and put petrol in a plastic bag. And listen, I seen some silly woman putting petrol in a plastic bag. You see the video? Yeah. And the petrols are leaking out. That's what happens when you're a fool, man. You see how that petrol was leaking out? Listen, man, that is how England is falling at this moment, man. England is going down that same way. You see how this woman's filling up the petrol and there's a hole in the bag? That's England, man. England's always trying to patch up things and it's not working, man.
Right.
England is going downhill. If you don't see it, you ain't watching enough of the news, man. Read on.
From one end of the earth, even unto the other.
From one end of the earth, even unto the other. Meaning we were scattered all over, man. You got some brothers in South America, some brothers in North America. We were scattered, man, from one end of the earth, even unto the other. Brothers is in Brazil, Jamaica, Trinidad, Mexico, all of those places, man. We scattered from one end of the earth even onto the other. Some brothers was slaves in Spain. You even had what? A few slaves in England. Not loads though, but you had a few slaves in England back then. Why? Because slave masters wanted house slaves. So the slaves in England thought that they was better than the slaves in the Caribbean. So kind of like today, how black British people look down on Yardies and Jamaicans. Same way how black British people look down on Yardies and Jamaicans is the same thing they did during slavery. Why? Because you looked at it as like, well, I'm a slave in England and he's a slave in Jamaica. So your slave master would say to you, yo, if you don't become a good slave and do all of these things, I'm going to ship you over to the Caribbean. Listen, man, they've been deporting people before the Windrush, man. They've been deporting our people way before the Windrush. This Windrush thing has always been going on for us. Us as black people have always been being deported and have always been threatened, man, all the time. So the slaves in England had to work and work and work. Why? Because then the worst nightmare was what? Being sent to the Caribbean to be a slave. Now, what happens when our brother's papers it straight over here? He has to keep a low profile. Why? Because he don't want to go back to the Caribbean. So there's always been this fear of us going back to the Caribbean, man. Because obviously, you know, it's harder there. Nevertheless, you're still a slave no matter which one you're at. Whether you're in England or the Caribbean, you're black the same way, man. You're still a slave, man. Now, obviously, there's different levels to slavery. Some people had it harder in slavery than others. But nevertheless, you're both slaves. So we shouldn't look down on our people, man. This is why we shouldn't look down on our people based on what job they do, based on how much money they got, based on what clothes they wear. We shouldn't look down them on when it comes to those things. You know why? Because we all niggas, man. The difference is this. He's a nigga that's on foot, and you're just a nigger in a coupe. That's the difference, man.
Right.
Here's a nigga with no money. You're a nigga with £100. Either way, before anything you have, you're a nigga, man.
Right.
Before anything, you're black. So always remember that, man. No matter what you have and what you don't have, always remember what comes before what you have and what you don't have is what? Your race, man.
Right.
Listen, man, we ain't supposed to look down on our people. Some brothers is going to be poor. Some brothers is going to be rich. But nonetheless, as a nation, we're still not desired. We're still hated by everybody. We're still oppressed by everybody.
Right.
And that's what happens when you're black, man. Read on.
Even from one end of the earth, even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods.
And what?
And there thou shalt serve other
It says,
gods.
and there thou shalt serve other gods. And that's what we do, man. We serve other gods. Go ahead.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
Which neither us nor our fathers have known. Meaning what? We didn't know. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't know no Allah. Nowadays, a Muslim will tell you, Abraham believed in Allah. That's what they'll tell you. Which is a damn lie.
Right.
You know why that's a lie? Because the Bible says, what? Read that part again.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
Our fathers is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They didn't know no Allah. They didn't know no Buddha. They didn't know no Caesar Borgia. They didn't wear no Jesus piece around their neck. They didn't know those gods, man. Meaning what? Them gods was nothing. Those was just idols.
Right.
Those was nothing to us. But nowadays, we've become slaves and they gave us their gods. This is why, in the Caribbean, they introduced you to Christianity. Because why? They said what you was following was savagery. They said what you was following was nonsense. Because back then, you was amongst the West Africans. So then, you had a ton of West African customs, some which we as a people still hold until this day, like the 9 nights, the putting food out at night, saying believing the dead's gonna eat it, the veneration of the dead. That's the proper term for it, the veneration of the dead. Ancestor money, where ancestor money is a thing what that you can buy on Amazon, man. You can buy ancestor money on Amazon. So Amazon will take your money, they'll give you a piece of paper, and then you have to burn that paper, and then you believe that money goes to your ancestors. That's some garbage, man. And black people actually believe it. This is the kind of nonsense that we follow in this captivity, that kind of foolishness. Go ahead.
Even wood and stone.
Even wood and stone, Now, if I just gave you a basic piece of wood, you wouldn't worship it. Why? Because you know that wood can't do nothing. You know that wood can't do nothing. But with that wood, you carve it into a cross. What happens? Christians worship it. They bow down before it. They pull it around their neck. They do all these prayers like this before they go to bed. All this Catholic stuff, man. They wear the rosemary beads, all of that nonsense. They believe each bead is a saint that you pray to. All of those things, man. They believe you have to have the rosemary beads and you're closer with God. Then they believe in purgatory and all of that nonsense. What's purgatory? Where you're dying, you're held in a place for a while before you go to heaven. All of that nonsense. I believe you got heaven, hell, and purgatory, which is some Catholic place in their mind anyway. Which in the Catholic religion, that's the garbage they believe in. And now black people's done ate up all that nonsense and believe it also. Go ahead.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease.
And what?
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease.
And it says, among these nations thou shalt find no ease. Meaning what? You're oppressed whether you're in Brazil, you're oppressed whether you're in Haiti, you're oppressed whether you're in Jamaica, you're oppressed whether you're in France, you're oppressed whether you're in Germany. You don't find no ease, man. There's nowhere on earth where a black man can go and life is easy. There's nowhere on earth a black man can go and find some peace and put his feet up, man, and don't have to worry about tomorrow. There's nowhere we can go as a nation, man. Imagine this. You flee from one country to another because we find no ease. You think, you know what? I'm going to leave this country and go somewhere else where they respect black people. There's nowhere on the earth where they respect black people, man. Why? Because amongst these nations, thou shalt find no ease. Because these nations don't want you to have an easy life. These nations want to stress you out so much that you're dead before 40, man. They don't even want us to exist. If they could have it their way, they wouldn't even want to coexist with us. They just want us dead and gone. And this is why England was so upset about black people coming over. Meanwhile, the Afghans can come over, though. The Afghans can come over just fine. But when it comes to you, they try not to make you come to England. And that's what it says. Thou shalt find no ease amongst the nations. Read on.
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Neither what?
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Listen, man, black man, you don't get no rest whatsoever, man.
Right.
When do we get rest? No such thing. There's no such thing as rest, man. Listen, as a black man, you can't even retire, man. You don't get no rest. As a black man, you can't retire. You have to work. And then when you die, you can't even afford to pay for your own funeral.
Right.
You ain't got no inheritance for your children. You ain't accomplished nothing. Everybody online knows it. You're living from wage to wage. You know it that you can't wait for payday, which is tomorrow or Friday. You know that 11:59, you're checking your online banking to see your pay. And then when that pay comes, what happens? There's a hole in your pockets, man. Yeah. Bills is coming out. Bills is coming out. More bills is coming out. And then you do the same thing next month. And then the next month after. And then a year after that. And then 2 years after that. And then 5 years after that. And after you working all them years, you have nothing to show for it, man. Why? Because the sole of our foot doesn't get no rest, man.
Right.
Meaning you have to keep working. They pay you minimum wage. Why? Because they don't want the sole of your foot to get rest. I mean, if they paid you what they was supposed to pay you, you would take that money, build a house, set up a business, and you wouldn't go back to that workplace. So they have to pay you minimum wage, because minimum wage is called a living wage, meaning what? They pay you just about enough for you to live off. It's called a living wage. Why? Because they pay you just about enough for you to live off. Meaning they know, okay, then by next month, he's going to be asking for overtime because he's done spend all his wage. He's going to be asking for overtime because he needs more money. He can't tell us stuff the job. You know why? Because he's got bills to pay. He can't tell us stuff the job because he's got rent to pay. He can't tell us stuff the job. Why? Because he needs this money. He needs us more than we need him. So as long as we continue to pay him a living wage, we will have him come back every single month. We will have him right where we want him Because if you had enough money, you wouldn't go to work tomorrow, man. You wouldn't set your alarm clock every night and wake up in the morning to go to work. You would go tell that manager, stuff your job, I've got enough money. But they pay you a living wage, so you don't have enough money. So you're just working to live.
Right.
That's all you're doing is you're working to live. That's our life, man. Because the Bible says the sole of our foot shall get no rest. Read that part one more time.
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. This is why they pay you a living wage, man. Read on.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart.
But what?
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart.
And because you have to work so much, and the sole of your foot has no rest, and you don't know when your next meal's coming in, and you don't know where your next money's coming from, and you don't know if you can make the bills this month, guess what? There you have a trembling heart, meaning you suffer from anxiety, asthma attacks, well, not asthma attacks, panic attacks. So now you have anxiety and panic attacks and stuff. And that's our life, man. Anxiety, panic. Listen, speak to black people, man. Especially the sisters, most of them suffer from anxiety, man. That's what a trembling heart is, man. Where you just start to think about everything. Everything just gets on top of you. You start having breakdowns randomly. Oh my God, where's my next meal going to come from? Oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? Oh my God, a brown letter's come through the post. There you have a trembling heart, man. You see a brown letter and you're scared to open it, man. You'd rather not open it because you know it's some kind of bill. You know the bailiffs is on the way. Here we have a trembling heart, man. And the sole of our foot gets no rest. We have to work and work and work. And then you have no money and you can't pay the bills. And this is why we have the trembling heart, man, which is anxiety, panic attacks. Everything gets on top of you. Everything becomes too much. And then what do our people do when that happens? Turn to drugs, man.
Right.
What happens when things become too much for black people? They turn to alcohol. They turn to substance abuse. They use these things as a coping mechanism. Why? Because they don't know how to get rid of that trembling heart, man.
Right.
How you do that is what? Stop caring about the things in the world and get into I.S.U.P.K, man. And then you'll realize, you know what? Food and raiment is all I really need, like what Christ said, man. But once you start thinking about all these other stuff, how you want to be rich, how you want to be a millionaire, and how you want to dream big, these things contribute to you having a trembling heart in this place, man. Why? Because you start to think you're underachieving. You start to watch other people's life and think, why ain't my life like that? You start to see a person with a big house, living in a gated community, and then you believe, why I got a big house in a gated community? Why I got all these diamonds? Why I got all these stuff that they've got? And then you start to do what? Think, why I got all these things? And then what does that do? Makes you become a drug dealer. Makes you want to sell drugs to get what he's got. Makes you envy the oppressor to want to be like him. We ain't supposed to do that, man. Observation, man. Our kingdom is going to come without observation. Our kingdom is going to come, and you don't get it by observation.
Right.
Like you don't get it by sitting there waiting for it to come out of the sky. What you need to do is build that kingdom, man. It starts with brotherhood. That's how it starts, man.
Right.
Starts with coming together with black people. Starts with sitting down with your brothers and reasoning. That's how it starts, man. It starts that way. Read on.
And failing of the eyes.
And what?
And failing of the eyes.
You see them brown letters, man. You have failing of the eyes, man. You seen your children get sold in slavery. You had failing of the eyes. You see a black man die right in front of you. Failing of the eyes, man. You know how traumatic it is to see someone that you spoke to yesterday dead today from violence. Usually how it's supposed to go is someone's supposed to get old and you're supposed to know they're going to die. Like you're supposed to be like, yeah, the brother's getting old now and he's slowing down and the doctors told us he's got 3 months left. You're supposed to know like that. I can see you today and then I find out on Instagram that you half an hour later that you got shot. I find out on Instagram that you got stabbed. Listen, man, you will have failing of the eyes, man. Like we seeing things that our eyes can't believe. We see things that our eyes can't believe, man. And what does that do? Turns us into alcoholics, turns us into drug abusers. Why? Because we use these things as a coping mechanism, man. Because things that our eyes see, we traumatize from it, man. It gives us post-traumatic stress disorder. Read on.
And sorrow of mind.
And what?
And sorrow of mind.
And all these things lead you into a deep depression, man. All these things right here, from work, from minimum wage, to seeing your loved ones killed, it leads you into a deep depression.
Right.
A depression that what? Only the Lord can take you out of, man. By you being counseled by the priests and prophets in the I.S.U.P.K. You've tried to get counseling in the world, that don't work. You tried to get counseling from your single, lonely friends, that don't work. Because they ain't what? Equipped to do the job. They ain't equipped to do all the undoing that you've seen, man. They don't know how to make you unsee what you've seen, man. Whereas in here, we have the answers. Read on.
And thy life shall hang in doubt.
And what?
And thy life shall hang in doubt.
And you're stressed about that your life shall hang in doubt. So because your life hangs in doubt, you don't know if you're going to live or you're going to die. What do? Drugs. Well, I'm going to die young anyway. What do? Join gangs. Well, I'm going to die young anyway. What do? Not care about anything. Why? Because you live your life like it's a crash course, like you're here for a short time, but I'm trying to be effective because our life hangs in the balance. We don't know if we're going to die today or tomorrow. Nobody else don't live this way. Everybody else plans to live till the 70, 80. But with us, our life hangs in the balance. Go ahead.
Before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night.
And what?
And thou shalt fear day and night.
We fear day and night, man. This is why all these young kids is running around with knives, because they fear day and night, man. They fear that they have to stab someone before someone stabs them. Nobody else don't live like that, man. Only we live that way, because we fear day and night. We fear death day and night. We don't know when we're going to die, when the police is going to kick the door in. We fear day and night, man. Nobody else has that stress and them problems, but we do. Go ahead.
And shall have none assurance.
And what?
And shall have none assurance.
And we have no assurance whatsoever. Our life, there's no assurance. We ain't sure of anything. We ain't sure whether we can pay the bills. We ain't sure whether we're going to have a roof over our head tomorrow. We ain't sure whether we're going to have a meal tomorrow. We have zero assurance. This is every black man's life, man. This is every black sister's life. We have no assurance whatsoever. Go ahead. No, sir. You bet you did. We have no assurance whatsoever, man. Go ahead. You probably was at verse. Go ahead.
Shall have none assurance of thy life.
And we don't have none assurance of our life, man. Why do you think walking around with a bulletproof vest is, man? None assurance. Why do you think being scared to go certain places is? None assurance, man. Why do you think hearing gunshots every day and ducking and not knowing where the gunshots is coming from? None assurance. We have no assurance of our life. Go ahead.
In the morning.
In the what?
In the morning.
In the morning, man. Especially when we was in slavery. You don't know if the slave master is going to separate you from your family today. In the morning. Go ahead.
Thou shalt say, would God it were even.
So imagine this. Our life was so hard in the morning that we would say, oh man, Lord, I wish it was the evening. Why? Because you're picking cotton all day, man. Right. You can't wait for the evening to come. Tell our Lord, surely the evening must be easier than this. Go ahead.
And at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning.
And in the evening, you would say the same thing. Why? Because you would hear a noise. You don't know if it's your slave master coming to rape you. Usually he would come with a lantern and rape you in the night, man.
Right.
He would come, rape you in the night and just throw you back like you're a piece of meat. That's what they would do, man. We had none assurance of our life. None assurance. And that's how we live as black people. We ain't sure about anything. We ain't sure whether we're going to live, whether we're going to die, whether we're going to be able to pay the bills. Listen, man, us as black people, we're sick and still have to go to work, man. Imagine this. Black people are sick and still have to go to work. Why? because they can't afford the bills if they don't go.
Right.
They can't afford the school uniform. So much that we're so poor, we have to get vouchers, man. The fruit and veg vouchers that you use in ASDA, where you get free milk. We need them vouchers. Why? Because we're so poor, man. And we have none assurance if we're going to eat, if our children's going to go ahead.
For the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes.
And for the sight of our eyes. Now, we see things that what? Makes us afraid. And then you close your eyes and then you can't get it out of your head. You can't get them pictures out of your head, man. Imagine seeing someone go through something disgusting in front of you and now it's in your head. You can't get it out of your head for fear for the sight of thy eyes. So how do you try and get it out of your head? Drinking alcohol, drinking white rum, drinking Hennessy, being a whore, thinking having sex with everyone will block out all the memories. We do all these things, man, to try and block out the things that our eyes have seen. We do all these things, what? To seek attention and trying to seek love. We behave certain ways to try and seek love. We try and seek validation from our oppressors. Like we do what they think makes what we do, what makes them happy. So we try and fit in with them. We try and behave like them. We do things that they do. We try and join their religions, try and join their gods. Because we think, you know what? My life's a shambles. The black man ain't got no God. But the white man does, so let me serve his God. We be like, you know what? The black man ain't got no God, but the Arabs do, so let me join his God. And then maybe I'll find a home with the Arabs. Maybe then the Arabs will love me. And guess what? I don't care if you're a black Muslim, them Arabs still ain't going to give you their daughter, man. Right. They're still not giving their daughter to no black man. No chance, man. They don't care what religion you are. They don't even see you as a real Muslim. They ain't giving you their daughter for nothing, man. Right. Like I said, before you was a Muslim, you're a black man first, man. Before you was a Christian, you're a black man first. Before you're anything in life, you're a black man first. When you come out the womb, man, all you have is what? Your nationality, man. That's all you have. Once you come out the womb, all you have is your nationality. You don't have nothing else, man. Nothing else. So all of this Islamic culture, understand this, man. You was a nigga way before you joined Islam. Right. You was an Israelite way before you joined any religion. You was an Israelite way before you got any money. You was an Israelite before you was anything, man. So always remember that first. You trying to join somebody else's culture, it ain't gonna work, man. We've been trying to join people's culture for years and years and years, and still they ain't opened the door and let you in. Still, I don't see a black mosque. I don't see a black petrol station. All of them being the same race. That's what unites them. What unites these Arabs in Dubai, where they overcharge you when you go there for a holiday. You go to Dubai and rent all these supercars. Listen, man, you go to Dubai, you rent all these supercars from these Arabs, and they don't even respect you. They charge you double the price. Why? Because of your nationality. So we need to come together, man, and set up our own communities, man. We need to set up our own black businesses. Right. That's what us should do as Israelites. Set up our own businesses, man. Imagine, listen, man, you got tons of brothers and sisters with skills, and we can all come together, man. We can all put our skills together. You got Benjamites that can do what? Make Caribbean food, man. You got Israelite brothers and sisters that can do what? Make the tacos, man. Imagine if we all come together, put all our skills together. We could have our own Chinatown, man, which would be better than Chinatown. And then we could take everybody's money. We could take everybody's money, man. You know why? Because we got the best food, the best culture, the best dress sense, the best vibes. People would want to come to you and buy everything from you. Even if they don't like you, they would still have to spend their money with you. Why? Because you've got what they want. Whereas they ain't even got what we want, but we still give them our money. We still give them everything. Why? Because we're trying to cleave onto them, right, trying to join their religions and all this garbage. When their religion ain't never done nothing for us, man. Right. But further enslave us, but make you hate your brother. Imagine this. A brother that's the same race as you, you hate him. But a man that's a Muslim, you have to forgive him because he's a Muslim. Listen, man, your race comes before any religion, man. Before you ever put a kufi on your head, you was a black man. Before you knew what a kufi was, you knew you was a nigger, man.
Right.
Before you knew anything, them doctors that delivered you, before they knew what religion you was, they knew you was a nigger, man. Read on. We need to stop letting the black pound go to these heathens, man. Go ahead.
And for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
And for the sight of thine eyes that thou shalt see. So like we said, the oppression that our people go through, it pushes us to become alcoholics, man. Right. It pushes us to do what? Drink and drink and drink. Smoke and smoke and smoke. You don't just smoke because smoking's fun. You don't roll up a cigarette listen, you don't be at work having a cigarette break every 10 minutes because it's fun. You have a cigarette, why? Because you're stressed. For what? The sight that your eyes have seen, man. But listen, cigarettes ain't the answer because that's not going to get rid of the stress.
Right.
All you're doing is committing a slow form of suicide, man. Smoking is self-harming. That's what it is. When you smoke, it's a demon, man, that wants you to self-harm. Right. When you abuse alcohol, it's a demon that wants you to self-harm. Right. And it's a slow form of suicide. Like you're killing yourself. But because everyone smokes and drinks, you don't think you're killing yourself. But that's exactly what you're doing. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Read on. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to water.
To talk on this mic.
Say that again. Say that again.
So it's probably going to need to talk on it.
Oh yeah, you could not. So lucky. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
And what?
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
And that's a Greek word for bondage. We've been in slavery, man. The Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Same thing you was doing in ancient Egypt. We done in these captivities, man. We done in these colonies. Go ahead.
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
So we went in ships, man. Cargo slave ships, which was what? Built by the Arabs, man. Built by the Arabs. Funded by our oppressors. And then, how did the Africans help? They sold you for handkerchiefs and muskets. They came to the west coast of Africa, rounded you up. The RAF, called the Royal African Federation, put you on ships and took you to different places, man. Took you to Martinique, Trinidad, Jamaica, all of those places, man. Drop that, give me Baruch 4 and 6. So look at this flu's killing me, yo. This flu's something else. Give me a Baruch 4 and verse 6. This ain't no joke. Damn.
I had to go home.
You're too hot.
I had to go home and I had to do.
Yeah, this is rough.
4 and 6.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction.
So we were sold to the nations, not for our destruction. But then they destroyed us. Why? Because that's their nature. We were sold to them, not for our destruction, but they destroyed us because that is their nature, man.
Right.
And they've always wanted to harm us. But the reason they couldn't harm us is why? Because the Lord was with us.
Right.
So they've always looked for an opportunity for us to disobey the Lord so they can take us and destroy us. Because they know when the Lord's not with us, then they can do whatever they want to us. But when the Lord's with us, they know they don't stand a chance. So Of course, they're going to give you movies like Menace to Society, which shows you to kill a black man. Of course, they're going to give you movies like Boys in the Hood, which tells you to kill a black man. And then with Boys in the Hood, everybody wanted to be Doughboy. Everyone always wanted to be Doughboy. But when you read the thing, it tells you at the end of it, oh, Doughboy died 2 weeks later. What kind of life is that, man?
Right.
All your friends die, you kill somebody else, and they just come and kill you. They give us that life. Like with our oppressor, it's very subtle. So it gives you a narrative like, yo, if we show them this, then they will behave this way. They do a study on black people, and they know how our mind gets going. They know what kind of things we're weak to and what kind of things we're not weak to, because they've been studying us for years, man. So they give you all these things that brainwashes you. Read on.
But because you moved God to wrath.
But listen, we weren't so far destruction, but because we moved God to wrath, why? Because the Lord was telling us, don't eat pork, but we said, we're going to eat pork. The Lord was telling our women, don't be whores, but our women said, I'm going to have sex with every man I find. I'm going to kiss all these frogs. What's the saying? Kiss all the frogs until you find your prince. Listen, man. That's what our women live by. I'm going to kiss as many frogs until I find my prince. Whereas the Lord said, yo, let your father choose your husband, man.
Right.
This is why you come in the I.S.U.P.K and you can court a brother. And he's so brotherly that what? That if he's not interested, he will end the courtship. Why? Because he knows you're not the woman for him, so he will leave you alone and another brother will court you. That's how brotherly he is. Whereas in the world, a man will know he don't want you, just have sex with you anyway, just because you're there. He will just have sex with you just because you know you're there, you're easy, and he's never going to call you back. Which means eventually, when you do meet a man you like, you have to tell him, oh, well, I've had sex with 15 different men. I've had sex with 20 different men. I thought he was the one. So you mean to say 15 times you didn't know this one wasn't the one? So how much tries does it take? Yeah. How much frogs are you going to kiss? Listen, man. That's not our culture. Princess and the Frog, I swear, the Princess and the Frog, that's some nonsense. That's some Edomite garbage, man.
Right.
This garbage ain't our culture. Kiss as many frogs until you find your prince. No, man. Right. How about you keep your legs closed, man, and you come in the I.S.U.P.K and Commanding General YAHANNA will find you a good man. Right. Find you a good man that will love you forever, man.
Right.
And will teach you how to be a sister. Will teach you how to be a wife. Will teach you how to be a daughter and everything else, man. Read on.
Ye were delivered unto the enemies.
You were what?
Ye were delivered unto the enemies.
The Lord even calls the other nations our enemies, man. Because they are our enemies. But in 2021, we believe that they're our friends. They ain't our friends, man. Because a friend wouldn't put you in chains.
Right.
A friend wouldn't lynch you. A friend wouldn't rape your woman in front of your face. Listen, man. A friend wouldn't treat you like that, man. If you see these nations as a friend, you need to go look up what a real friend is, man. This man is an enemy. If you look at the word enemy, this man treats you exactly like an enemy. You're the last to get a job. You only get a job because of that law that they brought in. I think it's called affirmative action or whatever. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Read on.
Ye were delivered unto the enemies, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to God. Ye have forgotten the everlasting God. So
yeah, this is it. Hold on. So listen, you've only got a job because of this right here. Hold on, let me see. I'm not too good with the internet stuff. Forgive me, so luck here. So you only have a job because of this, because it says, what is affirmative action? The term affirmative action refers to a policy aimed at increasing workplace or educational opportunities for underrepresented parts of society. Now, in certain job places, Black people was underrepresented, Hispanic people was underrepresented, Native American Indians was underrepresented. So they had to give you jobs. Why? To make it look good, to make up the status quo. That's what they wanted to do. To make it look good, to give you jobs. Really, they don't want you working for them, man. They don't want you working in their jobs, but they only give you jobs to make it look good. And this is why, when you find certain big jobs, not a lot of Black and Hispanics working them. Why? Because our oppressor reserves it for himself and his people. So let's read on. Says these programs are commonly implemented by businesses and governments by taking individuals' race, sex, religion, or national origin into account. So now they take your race into account. So now really, they don't want Black people working there. So what they'll say is, you know what? We will take on every 10 people we'll take on one Black person. Really, they have to take on one minimum, but they don't want to take on none. But they have to do it to make it look good. It's called affirmative action. I remember I done a whole lecture on it some years ago. I don't know where the hell that lecture is now. But I done a whole lecture on affirmative action, and that's what it is. You ain't got a job because they like you. You ain't got a job because they're your friend. You got a job, why? Because of affirmative action. That's the only reason they hired you. It's because they need one or two in the workplace to make it look good, to make it look like they're not racist. That's the only reason they hired you. Read on. They didn't hire you because, you know, you're special and you're good at the job. But they just hired you, why? Because of affirmative action. Because before this, you would find that Blacks and Hispanics was underrepresented in the workplace. So now they give you a job, and then you use that job to do what? Think you're better than every other Black and Hispanic. Not realizing they just gave you that job because they need 1 in 10 to work in the workplace. And then you look down on every other Black and Hispanic when you ain't supposed to. Listen, man. You use that job to help your people. Like all the time, and you hear rich black rappers say, F these broke niggas. I'm thinking, well, what has a broke nigger ever done to you, man? You think he's not upset that he's broke? And then you're stunting on him, F these broke niggas. I ain't never heard a white man say F these broke crackers, man. I ain't never heard them say that. But when it comes to us, we get money and we don't know how to act. We get money and we turn foolish, man.
Right.
We get money and we turn foolish. We don't know how to act. We start saying things like F these broke niggas. Whereas what? We should be humble and be like, you know what? I wish every Black man could have this kind of money. But what we do is start to what? Stunt on our own people. And then what happens then? Our poor Black man then says, you know what? He's stunting on us. Let's go rob him. And then the cycle continues, man. Whereas if we just help one another, was humble, we wouldn't go through half the things we go through. I mean, if you're saying F these broke niggas, what do you think a broke nigga's going to do? Definitely going to try to rob you, man. Right. And you give them the green light when you say those things, man. At least try to help your brothers out instead of stunting on them. Go ahead.
For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to God.
And we were sacrificing unto devils and not to God, man. We were sacrificing unto idols. We was on the west coast of Africa, believing in all this nonsense about duppies, believing if you leave a plate of food out, a duppy comes and eats it. And this is why till this day, Caribbean people still do 9 nights. Like when one of your loved ones passes away, we do a 9 nights of feasting, 9 nights of eating. That comes from what? Africa. That is African culture, along with veneration of the dead. African culture. That's not our culture, man. With us, someone passes away, you just wrap the body up with some perfumes and oils and so forth, wrap them up and bury them, man. Whereas nowadays, you do all this weird stuff. 9 days, leaving food out, saying, oh yeah, this is their favorite meal, so they're going to eat this meal. That's a lie. They ain't eating it, man. Once you pass away, you go before the Most High, you get sent back, and you come back on earth, man, right, as a baby. Like all of us have been here before, and we're all going to be here again, man. Our loved ones that we've lost, they've been here before, and they're going to be here again, just in another form. Go ahead.
For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to God. Ye have forgotten the everlasting God.
We forgot our power, man. We forgot the Lord that took us out of Egypt. Why? Because we wanted to go worship Allah. We wanted to go worship Buddha. We wanted to go be in the Caribbean following these East Indians. That's what we wanted to go do. We wanted to do what? Put weed in a ram's horn, because that's where the smoking of weed comes from. They used to put weed in a ram's horn, and they used to say Kalija or whatever, Kalija something, and that's where Rastafarians get it from today. Rastafarianism is nothing but East Indian culture. Once upon a time, in the Caribbean, Leonard Howell, they call him the first Rasta. And Leonard Howell did what? Married an East Indian woman. Leonard Howell also did what? Had an East Indian name. This is why Bob Marley has an East Indian name called Gang. Why? Because Rastafarians copy East Indians. This is why they wrap their turbans the same. Because Rastafarianism ain't nothing but East Indian religion, scattered with a little bit of Ethiopian garbage in there. So what the East Indians would do is bang drums and chant. What do Rastafarians do today? Bang drums and chant. Rastafarians do what? Smoke weed and say a prayer. What did East Indians used to do? Smoke weed and say a prayer. Because Rastafarians and East Indians is the same thing. Rastafarians worship, the first sect of Rastafarians is what? The Nyabingis. And Nyabingi is what? They say it's the spirit of a Rwandan queen, some African woman. They say it's the spirit of a Rwandan queen that defeated their enemies. So that's where the term Nyabingi comes from. And that's what these Rastafarians call themselves today. Hold on, let me see if I can find the rest of the prayer, just East Indians prayer is similar as well. It goes something like, so shall it be in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Hold on, let me find it. Let me see if I can find it.
Is there a charger in
You know what? Let me see if we can. This is just like a little, what's it called one? Let me see if we can share this one. Share screen. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but this is it. And this is the rest of prayer, because East Indians had a prayer. I got it in one of them history books I got. Listen, I've gone over so much history books, I can't remember which one it's in. But I'll see if I can find it for next week. But this is their prayer. It says, glory be to the Father and to the maker of creation, as it was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be a world without end. Jah Rastafari, eternal God Selassie. Listen, man, the East Indians said the same thing, minus the Rastafari part, minus the Selassie part. Now, black people only worship Selassie. Why? Hold on, let me go back to the StreamYard. Black people only worship Selassie. Why? Because at the time, when Leonard Howell sinned, and the Rastas sinned that East Indians had their god, which was Krishna, they saw that Hindus had their god. They saw the white man had Caesar Borgia, their god. They said, well, where's the black man's god? And then they said, well, a black man must have a god. And then at the time, Selassie got coronated as king of Ethiopia. So they said, Selassie's a black man. He must be the black man's god. And that's how they turned Selassie into a god. The same way the East Indians turned Krishna into a god is the same way the Rastas turned Selassie into a god. So much that now in 2021, I have to explain to black people that Selassie is an Ethiopian and is not a brother. So much that I have to explain to them that Selassie is not God.
Right.
How can Selassie be God and he ran away from the Italians, man?
Right.
Selassie ran away from the Italians and sought refuge in England, ran for his life and left his Ethiopian people to die, man. Left them to die and get slaughtered. How can Selassie be a god, man? Meanwhile, there's a picture of Selassie. There's a picture of Selassie and there's a picture of white Jesus in the back, man, on the wall. Selassie was an Ethiopian Orthodox Christian, and it will tell you that he was an Ethiopian Orthodox Christian. How can he be God? Also, you believe Bob Marley was arrested? Bob Marley wasn't, man. Bob Marley had a Catholic funeral, man. Bob Marley had a Catholic funeral with priests holding crosses. Bob Marley lied to the Rastas to get their money like every Edomite does. Lied to get their money. And then when Bob Marley had cancer, what was he doing? Going to the Orthodox Church. He made the Christians preside over his burial. He wanted them to all sing hymns and hold crosses. Meanwhile, you thought Bob Marley was a Rasta, man. Bob Marley didn't even believe in this Jah Rastafari that you talk about. Bob Marley believed in this white man God also. But to Sar Records, he made you believe his Rasta through and through. And the truth is, he wasn't, man. How do I know? Because I read a lot of history books. Read on, let me get back on topic before I get carried away. So, okay.
Okay,
Baruch, I believe you was at.
yes, chapter 4, verse 7.
Go ahead.
Verse 8. Ye have forgotten the everlasting God that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you.
Listen, man, you grieve that land, man. Imagine we was on a land which nursed us. This land was perfect, man. This land had the best trees. This land had the best everything, man. The best rivers, the best everything. Everything that you wanted, the land of Jerusalem had it. It had the best of everything, man. The best crops, the best soil, everything, we had it, man. And this land nursed us. And what? Read on.
For when she saw the wrath of God coming upon you, she said, Hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion. God hath brought upon me great mourning.
God of what?
God hath brought upon me great mourning.
God have brought upon me great mourning, man. Why? Because we're supposed to be in that land and we ain't, man. It's that land's mourning. Why? Because other people is in that land. The Bible says what? You meant to make the land rest after 7 years, man. That land's supposed to rest. Not the people that's in it. They ain't letting that land rest. They ain't letting that land rest. Listen, man. These people ain't supposed to be in the land. Once upon a time, we got kicked out of the land, and what happened? The Lord sent lions to attack the people, man. Why? Because they was in our land doing some garbage. Because they're not supposed to be there. We supposed to be there. But now we kicked out of our land, and where are we? In countries that we're not supposed to be in, man. In Spain, in France, in England, in Germany, in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Mexico, in Brazil. We in all these places when what? We're supposed to be in the land of Israel, man.
Right.
We're supposed to be in a land that flows with milk and honey, but instead we're in a land where we're being oppressed, in a land where we're dying left, right, and center, in a land where we're at the bottom of society, in a land where everybody hates us, in a land where we can't get no peace, no rest, working a dead-end job to make ends meet, and ends ain't never meeting, man. That's what life is like for a Black and Hispanic man, working a dead-end job to make ends meet, and these ends don't ever meet, man. Read on.
For when she saw the wrath of God coming upon you, she said, Hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion, God hath brought upon me great mourning, for I saw the captivity of my sons and daughters.
The captivity of my sons and daughters, man. And that's us. We're supposed to be in a land right now which flows with milk and honey. Instead, we're in a land on an island called England where they're running out of petrol. On an island called England where they're running out of toilet paper. On an island called England where they're bringing 25,000 Afghanistans, man. That's where we are right now. When we should be in a land that flows with milk and honey.
That's right.
But instead, we're in some white man's land being oppressed, being slaughtered, working for minimum wage, can barely raise our children on the little bit of money they give us. That's where we at right now. Read on.
Which the everlasting brought upon them.
Go ahead.
With joy did I nourish them, but sent them away with weeping and mourning. Let no man rejoice over me, a widow and forsaken.
Actually, hold that, but give me Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 14. But hold that because we're going to come back to that.
Two and verse 14.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear it if it's the right one.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 14. Is Israel a servant?
Is what?
Is Israel a servant?
Listen, man, are we a servant? Like, are we just put here to serve? Is our whole purpose to serve other nations? Because you would think so, the way we live in, like we just happy to go to work, come home, and that's it, man. Like we're happy with our condition. The Lord's asking, is Israel a servant? Go ahead.
Is he a homeborn slave?
Is he a homeborn slave, man? Listen, history will let you know some slaves never ever left the plantation.
Right.
Some slaves spent their whole life on the plantation, and you're going to tell me about heaven and hell. Listen, man, these slaves, their whole life, they just thought, yo, I'm a slave and this is my life. And they lived their whole life on the plantation. They couldn't say a word. They couldn't fight against it. So everything we do right now is for them brothers also, man.
Right.
You see, for our ancestors that was picking cotton who didn't have a voice, we're going to use our voice and say the white man's the devil, the Bible speaks of, man.
That's right.
That's what we're going to do, man. For all those people that couldn't say it while they was picking cotton, while they was being abused, we're going to say it for, it's lucky, I mean, that our oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of. We're going to say it for, let me be politically correct before they try and shut down the channel.
That's right.
So lucky, my bad. Our oppressor. So yeah, for all those people that couldn't say it, we're going to say it on their behalf, man. For all those people that pick cotton week in, week out, we're going to go out to camp and say our oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of, man.
Right.
We're going to let them know who they are and what they've done, man. We're going to let our slave masters know the devils, man, and they're going into slavery. Why? Because our ancestors couldn't hear these things, man. They was picking cotton. Their whole life was them picking cotton, them slaving away. Imagine this, from the time you're born, you see yourself as inferior, and your whole purpose is to what? Just pick cotton your whole life, to work on the plantation. You need a slip whenever you want to leave the plantation. And they say no, they decide when you can and can't leave. Listen, man, they controlled them, man. And now they still try and control us. But with the little bit of freedom we have, we're going to use this to say that our oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of, man.
That's right.
We're going to go to camp and say it every single week, man. Let them know. This little bit of freedom you gave us, man. What did they like to say? The emancipation. With this so-called little bit of emancipation, whatever the hell they're talking about, this so-called little bit of freedom, this so-called little bit of slavery they abolished, I'm going to use it to say, oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of, man.
That's right.
Why? Because there was a people who picked cotton that couldn't say it. There was a people that didn't have a voice to say it, man, that couldn't say it. So with the voice that we have, we're going to say that, man. Read that one more time.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave?
Go ahead.
Why is he spoiled?
Go ahead.
The young lions roared.
Actually, go read that again.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave?
This is asking a question, man. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Like, listen, man. We ain't supposed to be comfortable in our condition. We ain't supposed to be comfortable in the condition that we're in. How do you see every other race has freedom and is flourishing, and then you're happy to say, you know what? I don't mind being at the bottom of the ladder. Listen, man, you're supposed to be better than every last one of them, but because you spent your whole life on the plantation, you can't see past that cotton tree, man. You can't see past it. You just look at that, and that's your life. And then they give us their gods to serve, man. They give us a white man to serve, man. Listen, that Caucasian Jesus that they give us to serve is what? The same as the police that's killing us, man. That white Jesus is killing us the same way the police is, man. The thing is this, you phone the police and then the police come and kill you because why are you black? And you go on your knees and pray to Jesus, and white Jesus comes and kills you with his Christianity, man, with his religion. White Jesus is no different to a police officer, man.
Right.
They both kill black people. You praying to this Caesar Borgia. How are you going to pray to an oppressor to save you and your people? It's not going to work, man. It's like calling the police to save you, and they never do it, man. They always end up shooting you, saying you look suspicious. And Caesar Borgia would say the same thing if he was here. You black people look suspicious. We need to stop praying to him, man. He's just another police officer that wants to bash your head in, man. Caesar Borgia is just another police officer that wants to taser you to death, that wants to shoot you like he did Mark Duggan. No different, man. You should look at every oppressor the same. I mean, they stereotype us. So it's only right you stereotype them, man. They look at us and say, yeah, we all thieves and criminals. Every black man's a this and a that. Well, we need to stereotype our oppressors the same way, man. They're all murderers. They're all criminals. The same way they stereotype us. How about we stereotype them? Drop that. Give me. Uh, give me. Where was we? It was in Baruch. Actually, give me Genesis chapter 27 first. Let me see what verse I want in Genesis chapter 27. Let me see if we can get down to the point. Hold on. And let me skip down to the. Give me Genesis 27 and 32.
Genesis.
Basically, this is about when Jacob steals Esau's blessing. This is why Esau's so mad at us. Read on.
Genesis chapter 27 and verse 32. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau.
And furthermore, Jacob didn't really steal the blessing. You know why? Esau gave it away because the Bible says Esau despised his birthright. Like Esau didn't care about his birthright. Whereas what? The first son would do what? Get the inheritance. Esau didn't care about it and gave it up for some what? Red pottage. Some blood kind of stew. Some meat and stew with blood all in it, man. That was Esau for you. Go ahead. Whereas, if like for instance, we went over it last week, but if you have a medium rare steak, what you're seeing inside, that's not blood. That's called myoglobin. So that's protein, which is in the muscle. So all that is protein, which is in the muscle. Now, when it talks about not eating blood, that's talking about Esau with his, you cut your steak and there's all blood on the plate. That's what it's talking about. The stuff that you're seeing where in your steak, it just looks a little pink inside. That's not blood. That's myoglobin. So that's just the protein, which is in the muscle of the animal. So that's all it is. Myoglobin, that's the name of it. So lucky, go ahead. That's the scientific name, myoglobin. Go ahead.
And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who?
Why? Because at this time the backdrop is Isaac's eyesight went dim. Now the Lord had his eyesight go dim. Why? Because obviously he would have seen it was Jacob, and he wouldn't have gave him the blessing. So the Lord had to make Isaac's eyesight go dim in his old age in order for Jacob to get the blessing. Go ahead.
And said, Who, where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me?
Back then, these blessings were powerful and meant something. Why? Because these was men of the Lord. Nowadays, if your uncle or your parents give you a blessing, that don't mean nothing. Because why? Your father's probably an alcoholic that don't even know what he's offering you. Whereas now it doesn't really mean nothing. Back then, blessings meant something. Them blessing you meant something. This is why everyone would go to a wise man and say, can I have a blessing? Whereas nowadays, we're a nation which has fell so far. Them giving you a blessing now don't mean nothing. Because why we fell so far, it means as much as thin air right now. Because we've done fell so far. Go ahead.
You have taken venison and brought it me, and I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed.
So he couldn't go back on that blessing. Why? Because them blessings was powerful and it meant something. Only now in 2021 you say something and it don't mean nothing. Only in 2021 you can not be a man of your word. You can say whatever and not mean it. Back then, these men was men of their word, man. They said something, best believe they meant it. Them men had honor and dignity, whereas now that's lacking in the black and Hispanic community, man. You only find honor and dignity in the I.S.U.P.K, man.
Right.
So lucky, I'm sorry I have to keep saying it. But outside of here, people make promises and break them. Outside of here, people tell you anything and let you down, man. Why? Because they ain't a man of their word or a woman of their word. So they'll make you all these empty promises. Go ahead.
And brought it me, and I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed.
Good.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry.
This is Esau, man. Cried with an exceeding bitter cry. So lucky. You got the charger down there. You know it. Oh, it's lucky. See that? Oh shit, it's that one. There you go. Read that part one more time.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry.
So you know how the white man cries, snot coming out his nose, everything, snot coming out his nose and wailing. That's Esau, man. Had snot all coming out his nose, crying with a great and bitter cry. You've seen how Edomite cries, especially them ones which do it on camera right before they shoot themselves. You've seen them, right? The ones right before they shoot themselves on camera. Yeah, exactly. When they lose a football game, you've seen it. When the fan reaction camera goes on them, how the white man cries when Preston cries when they loses a football game. Listen, man, Esau cried like that, an exceeding bitter cry. Like they cry like the world's ended. Whereas us, as black and Hispanic people, we go for a problem and we just like, it's whatever. We lose our job, we be like, it's whatever. We're about to go to, we get sentenced by the judge. Listen, we get sentenced by the judge. We say F you to the judge, put our middle finger up and just, go. Esau screams and cries like a baby, man. As I say, it's an exceeding bitter cry because this man cries like a baby and wails and wails and wails, man. That's what this man done. Read on.
And said unto his father, bless me, even me also, oh my father.
So listen, you see, Esau, picture this. You've been in them toy shops when you see these Edomite kids crying for the toys. That's like Esau, man. You've seen how they cry for the toys and they're screaming down the aisle. And black and Hispanic people always say, yo, I could never do that around my parents. I could never throw myself on the floor around my parents, screaming the place down. Listen, man, Esau's been a baby from before him as a race existed, from when it was just one man before they became a nation. This man was that way, a crybaby, man. Great bit of cries. If you know anything about Edomites, they're crybabies, man. Everything they have to cry over. They have a bad day at work. What do they do? Cry. Listen, no word of a lie. Some devil at my slavery, some woman at my slavery. Her man makes her sandwiches for work. So he makes her sandwiches for work. One day he put the wrong toppings in there, and she was at work crying, man. I've walked and I was like, "What's wrong with you?" What's his name again? I think his name's Carl. Yeah. So Carl put the wrong toppings in the sandwich. Listen, I was thinking, well, damn, that's what you're crying over. Meanwhile, black people is barely living, can barely get jobs, can barely pay the rent, and we ain't cried yet, man. Meanwhile, this devil's crying about the toppings in their sandwich, man. Which lets you know they ain't got no problems.
That's right.
Which lets you know their life, they don't have real issues. They don't have real life problems that they're able to cry over little things like the toppings in the sandwich. Listen, man, I wish we only had problems with the toppings in the sandwich. Right. But we've got what? This whole world on our shoulders, man. We're what? Oppressed by every single race. We're murdered by the cops. We're 9 times more likely to be stopped than anyone else. We're 1 in 10 million to be Prime Minister of England. Meanwhile, the white man is 1 in 1,000 to be Prime Minister, which means the chances of a black man being the Prime Minister is nigh unto zero, man. Which is nigh unto zero. We can barely get into Oxford University. Why? Because if you got a black sounding name, they throw your application in the bin. If you got a black sounding name, they don't call you back for interviews. If you got a black sounding name, you can't get into grammar schools. Why? That's the problems that we have. Meanwhile, the problems that they have is the wrong toppings in the sandwich.
Right.
Meanwhile, we have real life problems. We going through real life. We have real life situations. Meanwhile, this devil can cry about the toppings in the sandwich. Read on. I wish that was our only problem. We dealing with what? Our loved ones being deported, being sent back on charter flights to the Caribbean. Our loved ones sleeping under a bridge somewhere. Our loved ones going days without eating. Our loved ones growing up without parents. Our loved ones growing up in single parent homes. Our men being killed at young ages. Our fathers being killed before we even know them. Our mothers dying before we even get to meet them. That's what we go through, man. We go through real life issues, and they go through the wrong toppings on the sandwich,
Right.
and they cry about it. Meanwhile, what we go through is overlooked. No one cares about what Black and Hispanics go through. This is why we need to care about ourselves and come together. And we should care about each other's problems. We need to stop thinking outsiders care about our problems because they don't, man. We've cried to them for help. We've gone to them to save us. We've gone to them for everything. And where has it got us? We're still in the ghetto. Still can't get jobs. Still doing low-paid jobs. Still can't get into top universities. Not because we ain't got the skills, but because of the color of our skin. This is what we go through. We go through real-life issues. And how about we come together with other brothers who go through real-life issues so we can sit down and speak and reason, man. So we can sit down together and speak to one another and be like, what you're going through, I'm going through. How can I go for therapy and it's some white man? He don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
This devil can't give me therapy because he ain't going through what I'm going through.
That's right.
He's crying about a sandwich. Meanwhile, I'm trying to tell him about, yo, I'm losing my loved ones. They're dropping dead from this, being shot, being murdered. He don't understand. He's just he's just there to get a paycheck. So he's going to tell me whatever. Whereas I can sit down with my own people where we all go through it. We all have issues, which is the same issues. And in the same way they got over that issue, they can teach me how to get over my one. I can't go to some devil that's a therapist that complains about a sandwich. Because why? They ain't going through what we're going through, man. That therapy is garbage. That therapy is just so you can pay them, so you can pay their wages, and to sit down and hold your hand. Oh yeah, you need counseling. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. That's all they tell you, man. Listen, man. How about you come to I.S.U.P.K and get real counseling, man?
That's right.
Read on before I go off topic. Luck you.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my father.
Go ahead.
And he said, thy father, Salaka, and he said, thy brother came with subtlety,
Subtlety.
and have taken away thy blessing.
Go ahead.
And he said, it's not he rightly named Jacob.
Because that's his name. So he said, yo, your brother came and took away your blessing. Go ahead.
For he have supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he have taken away my blessing.
Which is a lie. He gave away his birthright, man. Esau said, yo, I'm at the point where I'm ready to die. What does this birthright mean to me? Read on.
And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord.
I have what?
I have made him thy Lord.
Meaning what? He made us Esau's Lord. Esau is supposed to report to us, man.
Right.
Esau is supposed to be under our feet. We're supposed to rule over him. So how is it that he's ruling over us? Why? Because we disobeyed the Lord. Read on. We probably won't even get to go back to Beirut, but I read on.
And all of his brethren have I given to him for servants.
Go ahead.
And with corn and wine have I sustained him.
And with corn and wine have I sustained him, man. We're supposed to have the riches of the whole earth and everything, man. All these things are supposed to belong to us. We receive these blessings. Read on.
And what? Salakia. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?
Go ahead.
And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing?
So Esau's begging his father for a blessing, begging him for a blessing, saying like, you beg your mom, for something for Christmas. You beg your mom for the PlayStation for Christmas. Mommy, can I have this for Christmas? Esau's doing the same thing here. Go ahead. Begging for a blessing. Go ahead.
And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing?
So he said, come on, I can get one blessing. You must have one thing to bless me with. Go ahead. But Isaac gave away most of the blessings to who? Jacob. Go ahead.
Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
This geezer cried like a baby, like they always do. Go ahead.
And Esau and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth.
Thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. And this is why Esau's everywhere, man. His dwelling is the fatness of the earth. Esau's got no land of his own, but he's colonized everybody else's. Esau had no inheritance of his own, but what did he do? took over everybody else's land. This is why what? He took over Germany, took over France, took over England, took over Australia. Everywhere the Japhetic people was what? The Isles of the Gentiles belonged to who? Mainly Japhet. Japhet had like Europe and them places. Japhet had like Australia and them places. What did this man do? Come and kill the Druids and the Celts and lied on the original people of Great Britain. He lied and said they don't have no history. This is what he said. So lucky is that. Hold on. It says which one is low, is it? It says the battery's low on the. Is that charger plugged in?
Press that one. Plug that.
Check if that charger's plugged in. Is it plugged in? Oh no, it's not. Push it in. It needs to go on the wall. There you go. Yeah, it's in there. So yeah, he lied on them, and he said the reason they ain't got no history. He said because there was a people who like to memorize things and not write it down. He said they said writing things down makes your memory go bad. That's what I can't remember. Was it Julius Caesar? Julius Caesar said. But the thing is this: you can't listen to history from our oppressor based on him conquering his enemies, because obviously he's not going to tell you the truth. It sounds like he conquered them and burnt up their records, man, to get rid of their existence and just lied on them, because that's what they always do. They've done it before. They conquer you, get rid of your records, and try and wipe you out of history and say that you don't exist. Try and say, oh, these people existed 100,000 years ago, 100 million years ago. Why? Because they know if they prove that you existed, they have to pay you some reparations, and people's going to want the land back. So they have to lie and make out like you don't exist. So lucky, let me just finish off this last verse with Esau, and then we can wrap up, and then we can be done.
Okay. And of the dew of heaven from above.
And of the dew of heaven from above. Listen, man, this man has the fatness of the earth. This is why he's everywhere, colonizing the whole world. Listen, man, the British Empire has conquered, invaded every country except 22, man. They've invaded every country except 22 countries. Listen, man, Britain invaded Afghanistan from the 1800s, man. Britain invaded Pakistan, India. Britain is the reason why India and Pakistan split in two. They're the reason why India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan split in three. Really, that was one country. That whole country was India. But what? They formed groups with different religions, different beliefs. Some wanted to be Muslim, some wanted to be Hindus. And then what did the white man do? He used the old map. I believe his name was Reginald Dyer or something. I don't know if it was him. It was one of Colonel something, actually. He looked at an old map of India and just draw the line down the middle. He didn't even go and visit the land. He just drew the line down the middle. Whoop. And then now you have what? India and Pakistan as two different countries, where now they hate each other, whereas they was one landmass. Obviously, that's a bit of geography read on. Before.
And by the sword shalt thou live.
And what?
And by the sword shalt thou live.
And this is why this man is so violent, because by the sword shalt thou live. This man is violent, man. This man, all he knows is violence, violence, violence. By the sword shalt thou live. And he lives by the sword, man. And all he lives by is murder, murder, kill, kill, kill. Read on.
And shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
So listen, man, we had Esau in chains at one time. During the Dark Ages, we had Esau in chains, man. When we was the monarchs, when the monarchs of Britain was black, man, under King James and all of them. And then what happened? How did black people lose the throne? By what? Mixing with Edomites. By I believe it was Charles II or something becoming Catholic, and Catholics couldn't sit on the throne. Why? Because England was a Protestant country. Protestant meaning protesting against the Catholic Church. Why? Because Henry VIII wanted a divorce, and the Catholic Church wouldn't grant him. So he got his own clergyman, set up his own church, the Church of England, broke off from the Catholic Church, and put it in law that a Catholic can't sit on the throne. And because Charles II, who was a black man, son of Charles I, who Charles I was the son of King James, the Sixth of Scotland, did what? Became a Catholic and put his religion before his race, and then lost the throne. So what happened after that? The throne then moved to Esau, and then what happened? England was at war with what? Germany. So then the Queen changed their name from the German name they used to go by, and then now they became the House of Windsor, when really they originally wasn't the House of Windsor. Anyway, with that we're going to do security announcements, and we're out of here. Look on the time. Hold on, let me see if we can find it. Is the one over there? No, there's not one over here. Just check over there. There's the one over there. And we'll be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Captain Prussia will be here tomorrow, 7 p.m.
This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21, Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 10, means tenth in Hebrew, Maya Sha'ara, 10% of any penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to treasury department or teacher, priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations.
28th of November, Feast of Dedication, which falls on a Sunday. So the 28th of November, the Feast of Dedication. Come on down, man. Listen, man. The sisters got a fire menu in place. Listen, I'm coming out of retirement for that feast as well. You know, quarters are. Listen, I'm going to be in the kitchen as well. So lucky, listen, come on down, 28th of November. We're going to have a ball. The brothers, the sisters, bring the children, man. All of us, man. Let us come together, man. Let us drink, let us eat, let us reason. 28th of November, man. 394 Lodge Road, B18, 5PW. All Israelite born is welcome. Come on down, man. It'll be great to see you all, man.
Right, go ahead. Akim and Akov, check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. To that, I'll say Admadium. Admadium Shabbat. Admadium Barak. Yahaba Shem Yashai Brakatha.
Yahaba Shem Yashai Brakatha.
Yajamata. Class dismissed.
All right, Shalom, Israel.